morning, everyone. I hope that you are well and that this finds you good. If you're having technical issues, Dion, just refresh. Usually that really helps. So happy New Year, everyone. It is so good to see everybody. I think that you can probably hear me and see me because chat is continuing, so that's great. I hope that you're all doing really well. It is Saturday, January 8th, 2022. And I hope everybody had a really nice winter break. We are up and running as of tomorrow, so the kids go back to school tomorrow, and we are kind of back to sort of regular scheduled programming, if you will. We are also kind of back to sort of regular. So the kids were supposed to go back to school this past Tuesday on January 4th. And here in British Columbia, they delayed opening the schools by a week to help with just enhanced precautions for what's going on in the world right now. And our kids were actually exempt, so they had school, but only online this week. So they had assignments assigned to them, and we kind of had like a regular school week. Lighter, not as heavy as it maybe would have been, but it was really nice to kind of dip our toes back in and kind of get started slowly. So they were James was doing his math yesterday while I was making lunch, and it's been really nice to kind of ease back in. So I sort of feel like 2022 is here already, and it's sort of like, where did the last year go? But I think for many of us, it was a really intense year. And I think I know a lot of people are happy to see 2020 sort of be on its way out, but I think a lot of people are also very happy to see 2021 go. So I hope that you guys had a good end of the year, and I hope that you had a good year overall. It's easy to look back and only see the negative, but sometimes it's important to look back and really actively try to see the positive. So I would say overall we had a really good year. There were certainly some challenges and just the layers of intensity, but I think we fared okay. So I hope that you did too. Now, I would love to hear from you guys what your plans are for this year. So what are you guys thinking about? What would you like to accomplish? What would you like to make? I would love to hear about that. I have some pretty lofty goals that I'll talk about. I talked about them very briefly last show at the end of December, but I'll sort of go through them really quickly today, a little bit later. And I would, like I said, please let me know in the chat what you guys what your plans are. So a quick welcome to everybody. We've got lots of people from Patreon, from our Patreon supporters in the chat today. So we've got San and Ruth and Christine, Greta Lynn, Jenny, Mandy, Glenda, Kelly, Leanne, Amanda, Wendy, Jennifer. I'm so sorry, Jennifer, that you forgot about the Breed and Color study yesterday. Breed and Color study. Unfortunately, there was no podcast right around Breed and Color study. Katrina decided to launch it early in January so that she could get all of the orders and start working on them. So nothing is going to ship until the end of February. Thank you so much, everyone, for your support. I think she was quite overwhelmed yesterday at the amount of support, and I just really appreciate that, you guys. So welcome to everybody, and I love what Sam just said. Just keep spinning is absolutely the right sentiment right now, and yeah, it's the layers of intensity. My best friend and I finally saw each other yesterday and got together. We went for a walk outside with the kids, and we were talking. She works with me as well, and we were talking about just the layers of everything. And we just have to start doing the layers so that the layers become normal, and so that we can just sort of move forward, which I really agree with her about. All right, so in today's show, I've got a little bit of support spindle spinning that I've been doing. I've been really trying hard to stick with my 15 minutes a day. I have a new spin that I wanted to share with you guys and talk about. Another spin that's related to the wool circle that I thought I would just mention briefly because it's just an interesting experiment. And I have a twill gamp that I pulled off yesterday that has to do with the Sweet Georgia twill, the weave along for the twill on 4 shafts. So I thought that we could talk about that briefly. I also have another weaving project that I'm working on, and we have some really fun community participation. I could not keep up over the holiday break because it's basically been 3 weeks. It's been 2 full weekends, but that means that it's basically 3 weeks since the last podcast. I could not keep up with the amount of posting on the Slack channel that you guys did of what you were working on, what you were making. And I always find this time of year is like that you guys, a lot of people are home regardless of of COVID and stuff, people are home, they're with family, they're sitting, they're making, they're knitting a lot, they're finishing up projects, they're bringing their spinning wheels along. So I always find at this time of year that we have kind of this influx of like a lot of photos and making and whatnot. So over the next couple weeks, I'll be sharing that with you guys. Oh, thank you, Dorothy. She says your sweater looks so beautiful and cozy on you. This is the Gentle Morning. This is a 100% hand spun. This is out of Cheviot, actually, which is kind of fun because I've been writing about Cheviot for February's teaching content for spinning pearls that comes out as part of your Patreon support. So it's 100% Cheviot, and it's Gentle Morning by Trin Annalise. So it actually has some texture. I love this sweater so much. And actually what sold me on it was this, the back. I just love the back. I just think that is the coolest thing ever. So I do tend to wear it buttoned up as a pullover, because I find if I want a warm sweater like this morning, we've got more snow and we've got a sheet of ice on everything. It's not particularly pleasant. And 2022 kind of started with a bang, with a ton of snow, a white Christmas, a white New Year's. It's just been crazy. We couldn't get out one day to get to tutoring because the car literally had 2 inches of ice on it. So it's just been very intense. So I leave it as a turtleneck, and I wear it like as a turtleneck. I just love this sweater. I wear it a lot, even though I don't think you guys see it on the show when I'm recording and podcasting and stuff, but I wear it. I actually wear it quite a bit. Elizabeth says, my only goal is to try to keep up with the Long Way Homestead Breeds Club. That's a really lofty goal, Elizabeth. I have to admit, that was my goal when I started the Long Way Homestead breed Fiber Club. You get a different breed every month. It's from Long Way Homestead. If you don't know about what they're doing and the fiber mill and everything, I would highly recommend that you look them up. If somebody wants to throw their website into the chat, definitely do that. Anna is wonderful. Is it Anna? Yeah, right? That's not right. Anyhow, her and I chatted at Knit City for quite a long time, and she's just amazing. So, definitely a lofty goal, Elizabeth, especially with you finishing up your, you've got one more semester of school, so fingers crossed that you can keep up. I will say a little prayer for you. All right, so let's talk about spinning first, and I will see you guys on the other side. So I'm desperately trying to keep up with the chat as it's like flying by. You guys are so fast. And it's wonderful. I think it's just fantastic, but I'm like trying to keep up. So Ashley says she wants to weave and sew a new winter coat. Eve says the new music always throws me. So the new music is actually courtesy of Amanda's husband. I wanted to support, so many people support me and support the work that I do here. And so I always try to support other makers that are out there. And I support several other Patreon accounts and campaigns because I think it's really important. And I believe in the model, and so I like to support others as well. So anyway, Scott, Amanda's husband, he creates music that is used under the Creative Commons, Free Commons, Creative Commons licensing. So it is courtesy of Scott. So I went through his library. I've been going through it. And I just really hope to be able to continue to, use his music, because it's really fun to use some stuff that's not just stock, that's not just provided by the software. Thank you guys. New year, new music. Exactly, Vicky. What else do people have they want to do? 2022, Kathy wants to spin her fleeces, learn how to knit socks. She wants to do a sweater, and she wants to do more School of Sweet Georgia study. That's wonderful. Eve wants to learn how to use a 4-shaft 6-treadle floor loom. Absolutely, Eve, and we will support you in that in queries and explorations and virtual spin group and everything. Let's see, one goal is to knit caps and onesies as my daughter is having a baby in August. That's wonderful, Jennifer. Amanda wants to do a hand-spun turtleneck sweater for this year. That'll be wonderful. Maggie says, I haven't set any goals, still trying to finish up some big projects, then going to sit a bit and plan. I totally appreciate that, Maggie. I always feel like that after I finish a few big things. She wants to use her hand spun and spin a couple of sweater quantities from Stash. Wonderful. I'm going to be doing the same, so we can do that together. Jennifer says her big goal is to get all her skeins done for the Dickens Fair, cataloged and photographs up on her website, including ones yet to be measured. Yes. Dorothy wants to keep up with the OHS. You and me both, my friend. I have big news. I just submitted I know many of you sort of have been following mostly through the podcast because that's how we connect. And so you maybe haven't seen some of the other posts and whatnot, but what's really been taking up all of my time this fall and why I felt like I didn't have any spinning time was my OHS stuff, my Unit 1 OHS. So it's one of the heaviest units of the Master Weaver program. It has the most weaving in it. And because you do 19 samples in total. Well, there's 17 that you have to do, but by the time you sample for your project, it ends up being about 18, 19 samples. And they're all about 10 by 10, 12 by 12. They're not massive, but they take time. You've got to warp, you've got to thread, you've got to slay, you have to weave, wash and finish all of those samples, and then you need to do a final project. So it's a big unit. Anyhow, I mailed mine in. I was going to keep it and wait for the final meeting with the unit instructor, but I had talked to her privately via email, and I thought, you know what, I've got to cut this at some point. I have to just finish it. And so I did, and I mailed it on Thursday morning, and it was gone. And so I couldn't keep tinkering with it. I couldn't keep changing it. It is gone. So off it went, and my Unit 1 is done. So I feel this huge weight off of me. So I'm really proud of myself, and it felt really good to get it done. And actually, when I get it back, I will show you guys my final project, and I'll show you what I did. They were cushion covers. They were so much fun to make. My mom and I had a wonderful afternoon. She was super supportive, and I just, sewed through. She's a beautiful sewer, so she was helping me just with tips and tricks and stuff, and we had a great time. Sat and unpicked a little bit because I made a couple mistakes, and we just had a really nice afternoon, and then we worked on them again the next day as well. So OHS is, Lisa, great question, because I don't want to talk over people who don't know. The OHS is the Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners Guild. It's a massive guild. It's volunteer led. And they used to offer a Master Weaver and a Master Spinner program through the Halliburton School. I think it's the Halliburton School of Textiles, but somebody might be able to clarify that. Anyhow, I know the spinning one is still offered at Halliburton, and it's still in person. It's kind of like going to Olds for your spinning certificate and doing school for a week, going for Fiber Week. It's not like a program through like the Guild of Canadian Weavers or through the the Hand Weavers Guild of America or the Hand Spinners Guild of America, the HGA. It's not like through them where you send your work in and you're marked on it. So it's a little bit different, where it's not a mastery, they're both mastery programs, but one is self-study where you work through it and you submit as you go. And then there's other programs out there where you just put together a portfolio of your work and submit for marking. So different types of programs out there have different types of criteria. So this one is a self-study, and you go through your 18 levels and you just kind of tick them off as you go. So far I've completed, I don't even know if I've passed, but I've completed a level, one of the units, and now I'm working on Unit 2. So it's just one of the, it is one of the master level programs for weaving and spinning, and I happened to pick the Weaver one. The problem is with COVID, there's nothing here locally for me to start my spinning one, so I'm toying with the idea of maybe putting together my portfolio and challenging a master spinner program and just and doing it that way, and doing more of like the rather than doing a self-study program, going through and doing a mastery program where you're actually just submitting your work for marking, and it's pass or fail. So I'm kind of toying with that right now. But in the meantime, I'll chip away at my Master Weaver. So that is what I'm doing. So spinning. One of my big goals was to spin on my support spindles every day for 15 minutes and just keep working through this Cormo fleece. And if it takes me all year, it takes me all year. So what I have done is I have taken this little box. Actually, I'll show you this first. My little green box. This actually came from my friend Felicia. She's always got these cool little boxes that she gives people everything in. And it's just a Vita box. But basically, I put my stuff in here. And I've put a little bag of the Cormo fleece. So this was a fleece. I've told you guys about this before, so I don't want to repeat myself too much. But it was a fleece that I bought. It was 100% Cormo. It was from a shepherd in Montana. And I bought it through my friend Sarah Elizabeth of Sarah Elizabeth Fiberworks, and she's located just outside of Nelson, British Columbia. She has beautiful things on her website if you haven't heard of her before. So Sarah Elizabeth Fiberworks. Anyways, I had this fleece for quite a long time. It sat in the garage for quite a while. I shouldn't have done that. I should have tried to get it washed and cleaned right away. It just, on the list of priorities, it sat for several years. I ended up sending it to Liz of Kingdom Fleece and Fiberworks in Vermont just to see if we could get it clean and see if we could get it prepped, because I just don't have time to do a lot of fiber prep. And she pin drafted it for me. So it came back really beautifully. She did a beautiful job of it. It looks like this. And it's very fine. It's incredibly white. I know when I've talked about this before on the podcast, you guys have commented on how white this fleece is. And if you look at this white cotton under here, this is 8/4 cotton under here, and it's white. This looks even whiter, if you can believe it. So very fine, very white. And I showed this on the podcast last time. I've been spinning just 15 minutes a day, just whatever I get done. So what I've done is with this little box, I've been keeping it in the schoolroom. And when the kids are working on stuff and they're kind of working independently, because there's moments here and there where they obviously don't need me, and I just sit and spin. And so I just put my my bowl on the corner of the chair. I kind of scooch over, if you will, and so that I'm not spinning right. I find right in the center of my lap is a little bit too central for spinning. I need to be like off to the side a little bit. And that's actually been from you guys, your tips and tricks that you've shared, which has been really helpful. So these are both from the same spindle maker. These are Yarn Spindles. He's based in Maine. His spindles are beautiful. They're both a little bit different. So this one has a metal tip and this one is just the wood. And I thought when I ordered them and when I bought them that I would actually prefer this one with the metal tip. But the more that I spin on them, the more I like just the wood. It spins really beautifully. And actually, if I grab out my little bowl here that I've been using recently, I'll show you. This spindle just goes like stink. And it doesn't spin for a long time, but it's just beautiful. So I've been spinning on this quite a bit, and I'll just fill them up until they're sort of unpleasant to spin and they start to get a bit janky and a little bit kind of, unpleasant to spin, and I'll keep working on them. So last show I did a little bit of a demo on these, so I highly recommend that you check that out if you sort of want to see a little bit. And that is that. So my Cormo 15 minutes a day, it's coming. And actually, you guys have really helped to keep me accountable, because I keep thinking every time I don't want to do it, or I'm putting it off, or stuff comes up and it's like, oh, I didn't get it done. And it hasn't been every day. I'll be totally honest. It hasn't been every day. However, it is always in the back of my mind. And I just don't want it to become something that is really onerous, that I become resentful about. So that has been really nice. We did an experiment on the wool circle the last couple of weeks, and that's the reason for this distaff here that's all prepped and ready to go. So this is Chaotic Fibers, and they're located on Vancouver Island. They were recently bought and sold because the lady who owned it and ran it for years really wanted to retire, and I think the work was getting really a little bit too physical for her, which is to be. I think we all can understand that can happen. A lot of this work, carding and packaging and dealing with like 22-pound bumps of fiber, and it's heavy work. So it was bought and sold, and thankfully we'll see the company continue, which is really wonderful. And so we were talking, this was basically a blend. It's merino flax and merino silk and flax. And I had some of this in my stash. It was old Hedgehog Fibers Fiber Club. I think it must be from like 2015. And I had spun a little bit of it. I had sort of played with it when it first came, and I had really tried to sort of make it work and see if the camera can focus here. And really tried to sort of get it to work. Come on, camera. And these are some of the plyback samples that I got, and some of the stuff that I had sort of tried to play with. And no matter what I did, it just I just wasn't really happy with it. And so I have this sort of remaining. It was 125 grams in total, and I have this remaining, this is the last. It's not, I didn't have quite all of it left, but I had a lot of it. So basically on the wool circle, what we did was I was showing this and I was talking about it and how difficult this is to spin. And, the streaks of flax in there, and you've got the streaks of silk in there, and you've just got all this texture and all this stuff. And I was saying that I also had this other blend in my stash as well. I think I might actually have some better photos of this. So let me flip over and see if I have them. I don't. Sorry about that, you guys. So, anyhow, I was talking about sort of how I have these in my stash, and with the flax in there, it makes this really super textured rustic yarn, and that's all very fine and well, but it's really difficult to spin. And that I thought that we could do some sampling with the Chaotic Fibers one at the wheel for the wool circle. And that we could spend some time sort of figuring out how to spin this blend. And so then quite a few people said, well, in the live chat, they were like, well, if it was me, I would send it through my drum carder. And I was like, that's all very fine and well, but what do you do with this when you can't throw it through the drum carder? Because if you throw it through the drum carder, I mean, you can throw it through the drum carder, you can do whatever you want. But the thing is, if you do throw it through the drum carder, that orange, that purple, and that blue is all going to blend together, and you're going to end up with gray. This is going to be the color of it, all of it. And you'll lose these beautiful sort of different colors, because some of the areas are really bright orange. They're quite pretty. And so the overall sentiment in the group was, oh, bummer. Yeah, what do you do? And so we talked about that, and that's all on the wool circle. But in the meantime, I took the blended top from Chaotic Fibers that was undyed, and we put it through the drum carder only once. And I made these bats, and then I took the bats and I stripped them into 16ths. So I opened up the bat and I stripped it down into these 16ths, and then I pre-drafted it. And you can see just how beautifully blended it is compared to that Hedgehog Fibers that you were looking at just a minute ago. So look at how streaky this is and how difficult it is. And then look at how blended that is. Isn't that beautiful? And so we've been spinning that up. So I've been really enjoying this spin. You guys know how much I enjoy spinning blends. And this is really reminiscent of the blend that I did, I guess it's in 2020 now. The meadow yarn that was with the alpaca silk and flax. I really enjoyed it. So really lovely. I know you can, Liz, but it's not worth it to ship it down to you. And actually, what we ended up doing on the wool circle was we took the Hedgehog Fibers and we stripped it down to the width of my thumb, and then I pre-drafted it really beautifully. Yeah, so it's going to be really neat to see the difference between the two yarns, because my hypothesis is that this yarn is going to be a little bit smoother than the hedgehog fibers. The hedgehog fibers is going to look more rustic than this is going to look, but it'll be really fun when they're done for us to do a comparison. So that's been really fun on the wheel, and I've been really enjoying it. Let me just move this out of the way. So this is my new spin. So let me flip the camera for just a minute. And this was 2 4-ounce braids of this colorway called Tofino Road Trip. I'm just gonna move the camera over just a little bit. Tofino Road Trip, and it's this BFL silk. I think it's 80-20 if my memory serves, or it might be 85-15. I've worked with this blend before. I've worked with it actually quite a bit. These are some of my most favorite colors, which you guys will absolutely know. It's the sort of that ochre gold yellow, which I'm wearing, and then this gorgeous sort of purpley gray, which I have a couple of t-shirts that are this color, and I just love this color. So I had these 2 4-ounce braids, and I was trying to figure out what to do with them, and they've been in my stash since March of 2020, so not too bad, almost 2 years, not too bad. And I have these lofty goals this year, talking about goals for the year. I have this lofty goal this year of sort of spinning down a bunch of my stash, and just going through my bins and going through my stash and picking out 3 or 4 or 5 braids at a time and just spinning through them, and then picking out the next 4 or 5, spinning through them. So this is the first of those, and I asked the Wool Circle which they wanted me to spin first. So I gave them a choice of sort of 4 different colorways, 5 braids total, because there were 2 of these. And this is what they chose for me to do first. So do the huge amount of work first, and then I get to look forward to the shorter, only one braid spins later. One of the things that I really wanted to do with this, though, was a 3-ply fractal. So what I ended up doing was I took the 2 braids and basically 226 grams, because they're 2 4-ounce braids, so 113 grams each, divides down to 75 grams for each bobbin. So that's basically what I did, was I took the braid and I tried to sort of split it in a 75-25 split all the way down the length of the braid. And you can see here, it wasn't completely accurate. I was off by a couple of grams, but it's pretty good overall. So this is 75 grams here, and this is bobbin number 2, and then bobbin number 1 will be spun just end to end. That's the one on the far right there, and then the last bobbin will be spun just with 5. I only split it 5 times. And the reason that I didn't split that final bobbin a ton and go down even more in terms of just splitting and splitting and splitting and splitting was because I really, really like it when you get these really long transitions of color. So the fractal will be a little bit more subtle, hopefully. That's the plan. I can totally see Tofino in those colors. I know, right, Kelly? And when you look at like the blue, it's so much like that blue that you see in Tofino. It's just so close. Let me catch up with chat. 15 minutes a day has been really inspirational. I'm so glad, Dion. I now keep a box on my coffee table with supports and support spindles spin daily too. That's amazing, Dion. I'm so glad. Josie says in 2022, I aim to use more of my hand spun, make a copy of my Linenberg pullover. And you know what, Josie, I have not finished that. It's sitting over there. I still have to rip out the body. And I was thinking the other day, I have to get that going, and I've got to get that back on the needles and get working on it. But it's just like one more thing right now. And I thought, you know what? It's not a big deal, because it's just knitting around and around and around and around and around, because I'm onto the body now. And I have to rip the body out because it was way too big. So I'm going to save it. I thought I'll reball the yarn. I'll put the stitches back on the needles so that it's all ready to go. I'm going to save it for when we go camping and on one of our big trips, and I can just sit in the truck and knit all the way around and around and around, because those trips that we do, those road trips, are when I get a huge amount of knitting done. I don't have to concentrate, I don't have to think about it, I can just knit. So Josie also wants to rent an e-spinner from her guild and make more things for the home. That's wonderful. Weave more finished knitted blankets, etc. That's wonderful. Diana says, I love the 15-minute a day approach. 50 minutes is easy to manage and it often grows to more. Amazing how much you get done. Absolutely. I've been shocked at how much I've gotten done. That's so true. Does anyone know who makes the glass bottom support spindles with the beautiful patterned glass? Those are Mingo and Asho. Charlotte was on it. She jumped in there and said Mingo and Asho. Yeah, it's hard to get them, but they're there. I'm going to reach forward here. There is fluff on the camera. It's driving me batty. It's like just waving. It's just hanging out there. All right. Let me just, if I don't keep up with chat, you guys go so fast and then I can't keep up. So I had mentioned that our breed and color study for this year has been released. Katrina did all the dyeing for it. She's been working on this since October, November kind of time. It's been really intense for her. It's been really fun kind of coming up with it all. She came up with the came up with the colors, came up with the idea. We came up with the wool earlier in the year because she had sort of stumbled across it and we both sort of went, oh, that would be really fun, something totally different. So this is our breed and color study. I know most of you have seen this by now. It was released yesterday. All of the orders have been taken. Everything is shut down. Please feel free. So with breed and color study, this is a little bit of housekeeping for you guys. With breed and color study, you do not need to purchase the fiber from Katrina to participate. This is open for everybody. We encourage everybody to participate. We encourage everybody to purchase the fiber. If you got some this year, that is wonderful. If you didn't, you can absolutely dye your own. You can source from someone else. It is totally up to you. The reason this study is going to go for the whole year is because we combined the combed study with the carded study. So as you can see, we're looking at analogous colorways this time round. So you can see that the blue has that really, really dark blue in there, as well as the really light, almost seafoam color. And then the pink goes from that dark burgundy, almost rusty red to that really bright, vibrant magenta red. So these analogous colorways are a little bit different to work with, and it really pushes you in terms of color. You're looking more at sort of tints and tones, because if you grayscaled this photo here, you would see that that dark navy blue turns quite dark gray, and the light is quite light gray. And so you start to work sort of on that scale of value. And then the bats are all jumbled up together, and you sort of end up with these really beautifully heathered analogous yarns that are quite easy to use in our knitting for those who don't prefer really busy hand-spun colorways, and they like things that are a little bit more analogous and a little bit more cohesive. These are the colorways that people tend to be drawn to. They're also challenging in their own way, because if you don't think about how you're going to spin them and you just spin it up, you can end up with pooling, where you end up with all of the dark colors in one area, all of the light colors in another area, and you end up with these splotches all over. So you just have to sort of think about how you're going to spin them before you sort of dive in and jump in. So this is our study for the next year. I will be dabbling and playing with mine sort of throughout the year, and then we'll do a big highlight on the breed and color study and really look at them in more detail in the Spinning Pearls, which is our monthly teaching content that's released for all patrons. In I think it's October and November is when I have it scheduled. So that's something to look forward to. And thank you to everybody for their support. I think you really kind of went above and beyond Katrina's expectations, so thank you. It is already sold out. It sold out very, very quickly. So she has a certain amount that she can do. She might have extras. After she's finished sort of preparing everything, there may be some extras. So she'll let you guys know if that's the case. All right, so I have been working on some weaving, and so I know the weaving isn't for everybody, but I hope that this stuff is interesting in the sense that it's just really pretty. So one of the things that I've been working on, and I couldn't drag the loom over here to show it to you on the loom, but I've been working on the denting scarf. This is from the Jane Stafford Online Guild. This is a really fun, fast project, and Jane says this is from season 3, episode 1. She says on the show that you're basically doing half of the weaving, and she's not wrong. So the warping is super fast, the threading is really fast, the slaying is really fast, and then the weaving is even faster because you're literally weaving half of what you would normally weave. So I'm doing this on my Louette Jane, and the only reason why I threw it on the Jane on the table loom was because I didn't have a free loom at that time. I made the warp one morning and I had it made within about 45 minutes because, like I said, you're winding half of the warp. So this is 16-2 cotton. It's a little bit finer than what I've worked with in the past. It's been really lovely. I absolutely love it. And once this is finished and once it comes off the loom, basically everything moves and creates this really beautiful denting pattern where you have these areas that are a little bit denser in picks and ends, and then you have these areas that are more open. And you can see on the loom where things are already shifting and moving around a little bit. And what holds it stable and what holds the weaving is the selvages. So you do have to make sure that your selvages are sort of on point. And the way to do that is you throw your first 2 picks and then you hold the edge while you close your shed, and then you beat it sort of into place. It's just a wonderful way of doing denting. I'd always sort of been intimidated by denting in the past because I'd seen denting done with like cardboard strips and whatnot, and I just kind of found myself thinking like there is no way I'm going to get into doing that. But this way is so intuitive and so easy, and it doesn't have to be perfect because everything's going to move and shift a little bit anyways. The other thing that I'm doing that's a little bit different from the pattern goes from black to gray to light gray and back again. And so what I did was I didn't have I didn't have 2 light grays that worked, that were the same value as the other grays. The grays that I had were a little bit greener, and the dark gray in this is a little bit bluer. So what I ended up doing was putting baby blue, kind of a really pale blue, sky blue with it. And then I put a really light pink salmon in the middle. So basically I've done the scarf. It goes from black to dark gray to the light blue to 1 pick of the pink, and then back out again. So it goes 4, 3, 2, 1, and then back out again. So it's creating just this lovely fade that goes back and forth. Thank you so much, Jennifer. So she says how delightfully light and airy this will be. And actually, Lauren in our community, I don't think she's here today. She showed me hers, and she followed the pattern, and hers is beautiful. And when she put it on and had it tied around her neck, oh my goodness, it was so pretty. So it kind of put a little bit of renewed spirit under me and a little bit of fire under my butt. I don't know the source of the term denting, Jennifer. That's a really interesting question. We should definitely Google that and see. I suspect it has to do with how you dent your reed. So as you're slaying your reed, when you thread, just for those who don't know and who are new to weaving, when you thread your heddles, you're only putting in the pattern that allows your shafts to rise and fall in that pattern. So if you thread your ends through shaft 1, when shaft 1 rises or falls, depending on the type of loom that you have, those threads will lift or lower, and that creates your pattern. But it doesn't create your set, which is kind of like your knitting gauge. That's the number of ends per inch that you have in your weaving. So the number of ends that you have in that section of weaving, it's done by the inch usually. So if you have 24, like this is 24 ends per inch. So if you have 24 ends in that inch, you have to tell the loom somehow that that's what you want in that inch. The way to do that is by slaying your reed. And so your reed is basically like your gauge in knitting. And so this reed, for example, is a 12 dent reed. And so that means that there's 12 slots per inch. And so to get this at 24 ends per inch, I had to slay 2 per dent. So if you do denting, it means that you're spreading you're sort of dictating to your reed how you want your set to weave at. If you cram, you're going to put more ends in that inch than is what that yarn would call for. So this yarn, it's a 16-2 cotton, is generally set at 24 ends per inch. So it's slayed at 24 ends per inch, but we're denting here, so we're skipping dents. So every 12 dents I skipped. So there's an inch where there's 24 ends, and then an inch that's empty, and then an inch that has 24 ends, and then an inch that's empty. So really, really, really interesting, and that's how you get those holes in that weaving. Yeah. Dents in the reed equals the teeth. Exactly, Amanda. Thank you. So yeah, that's where denting comes from. Super, super interesting. Yeah. Rebecca says, so you're doing the OHS certificate and the Jane Stafford Guild. So actually, no, I'm not doing the Jane Stafford Guild. I kind of cherry pick projects from Jane Stafford. So if there's something that I like the look of, or something that I want to learn, then I'll do that specific project. But I don't. My plan is not to make all of the projects. I did do the rainbow tea towels because I wanted the rainbow gamp. And I did the twill gamp a little while ago because I just wanted to have it to see it. But I'm not doing all of the projects, and I don't follow all of her stuff. I watch everything, but I don't do all of the projects because my focus is the OHS. Now, I am working on one other thing, and this is my twill gamp. So this is actually, it's a little bit wrinkled from washing. So I'm going to have to rewash it because I cannot get those wrinkles out with the iron. They just absolutely will not come out, but that's okay. I'll either spray it with, I'll spray it with some water, and then I'll repress it and see if I can get them out. But the twill gamp on 4 shafts is part of the School of Sweet Georgia, and I will kind of put in a little bit of a plug here that the affiliate link for the School of Sweet Georgia is down below. So if you would like to support the show in a different way, and you would like to join the School of Sweet Georgia, the affiliate link is a way to support me while also joining in on the school. So the weaving group that just started on January 6th, so it was only 2 days ago, so please jump in if this is something that interests you, is to make your own twill gamp and to go through and learn how to make a twill gamp of your own. And I thought that I would jump in on this and do this, and I've done twill gamps before, and I just did a whole bunch of plain weave and twill for my OHS stuff, so I'm a little bit twilled out. However, the more I do twill, the more I love twill, and the more that I want to do it. So it's kind of a bit of a self-perpetuating cycle here. And one of my things that I would like to do is, from this twill gamp, I would like to come up with one of the twill patterns that I could then use to weave something, a piece for something out of this. So that's kind of my long-term plan, is to sort of use this, whether it's one of the broken twill patterns or one of the reverse twill patterns, like whatever it might be. So this is 8/4 cotton, like I mentioned at the beginning. And so this is basically 2 strands of 8/2 cotton put together to make 8/4 cotton. So it's a little bit thicker. In plain weave, it weaves really nicely at 12 ends per inch. And in twill, it sort of weaves really nicely at 14 ends per inch. But I wanted to see what it would look like in the twill at something that was more open at 12. So that's what I started at. And as you can see here, it's too open. And even post-washing, it's too open. And I don't like this brown that's going through the middle here. My dividing, like I just don't love what the brown looks like. It's a dark kind of copper color, and it wasn't the original color that I was going to choose. And it's just not my favorite. So I might switch those out. And then the other thing is I didn't put on floating selvages. I don't love floating selvages. If I don't have to use them, I don't use them. But I need to use floating selvages on this because of a couple of things that I noticed as I got further along in the fabric. So this is the beginning. So this is straight 2-2 twill, and then this is the straight twill threading. This is the point twill threading. This is broken twill, and then I had to choose what I wanted for my last threading. So in the weaving study group for the twills on 4 shaft, basically you choose your 3. You can just do 3 if you want. You don't need to do the 4th one. For the Guild of Canadian Weavers, you do the 4th one. For the Guild of Canadian Weavers, if you're doing that mastery certificate, you do need your own pattern on the 4th repeat. So you do straight twill, broken twill, point twill, broken twill, and then you choose one. So I ended up choosing bird's eye twill. It's one of my most favorite twill patterns. I just love it. And I think it's because I love birds. And do you guys remember I showed on community participation, somebody had done their whole study on all of the different colors of the birds. I just love stuff like that. I think it's just beautiful. So this is bird's eye twill, threaded bird's eye twill and woven bird's eye twill. But look at what happens on the point twill with the bird's eye. Isn't that beautiful? It's almost like a pseudo huck kind of a patterning that happens. It's not totally huck, but it's really, really pretty. And that's the beauty of doing these twill gaps. So this is straight draw, threaded straight draw, 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4, and then woven 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. And then this is point twill on the straight, woven point twill, 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 1 2 3 4. It's hard to say it. And then this is straight draw with broken twill, so 1 2 4 3 1 2 4 3, and then this is back to the straight draw again, so 1 2 3 4 threaded, but then on the bird's eye twill, so 1 2 3 4 1 4 3 2 1 2 3 4 1 4 3 2 1. So you can see how it makes this big float here in the middle when you go to the 1, which is really fun. So that is my first sample. So I cut this off, washed and finished it at 12 ends. It's too open, it's too drapey, and it's not quite right. However, my 45-degree angle is perfect. It's toot puff puff for a minute. And I've got my 45-degree angles all the way through, which is really great. I think I got that from the OHS study. I think it was just like the whole 45-degree and getting a balanced weave and all that kind of stuff. Like I really was able to hammer that home with all of those samples. For my OHS, for my Unit 1, for the Ontario Hand Weavers and Spinners Unit 1 of the Master Weaver, I ended up in total putting on 6 warps for that study. 6 warps. 2 of them were quite short. They were only about 4 yards long, but the other 4 were at least 6 or 7 yards each. And just all that weaving of just learning how to do this. I just, yeah, that's how you learn. It's how you get good at this. So yeah, I really love this. Thank you, Josie. I'm really proud of it. It's beautiful. It'll probably just end up going on a table somewhere in our house, it just sort of as you know, something, but I am going to change out the color, and I'm going to add floating selvages, because when you get up here, it's the bird's eye twill that you get the problem. Your floats along the side get to be too long. Let's see if I can get that to focus. They get to be too long. There's just not enough, you need the floating selvage along the side, basically, for the bird's eye twill. You don't need it for the others, but you need it for that one. So I just have to throw that on. Not a big deal. Yeah. It looks sort of earthy, Christmassy. Yeah, totally, Rebecca. That's what I thought, actually. I have never managed a twill without a floating salvage on fewer than 6 shafts. It would break my brain to figure it out on fewer. So it's actually really simple how to do a 2-2 twill. Anything that's on a 4-shaft twill, that you basically have to start with your 2 outer threads. They have to be down. So whichever side of the loom your 2 threads are down. So if you're starting on shaft 1 and 2 and you lift shaft 1 and 2, that means that 3 and 4 are down. So if your last 2 threads are 3 and 4 at the end of your warp and they're down, if you enter from that side, from the left, then you tuck your tail, you'll be fine. If you start on 3 and 4, then 1 and 2, your first 2 threads will be down. And so you start from that side. So whichever side your threads are down on, start on that side and you'll be fine. And you don't need a floating salvage. And actually you can get really nice edges without the floating salvage. It's actually quite lovely. And when I compared my samples that were with the floating salvage on the 4 shaft versus my ones that didn't have a floating salvage on the 4 shaft, the ones without the floating salvage, my salvages were actually really nice and even, and they were actually a little bit nicer. So just something to think about. It's not written in stone. All right, let's go into community participation and then we'll say goodbye. Credits are running. All right. Mike was just going into the fridge to get some stuff for the kids, so that was perfect timing on his side. Good to see you, Becca. Thank you so much for being here. You just popped in for community participation. So what I wanted to do for community participation, like I said, the Slack channel is just chock-a-block full of so much stuff right now, and it's been so inspirational. I need to wet my whistle. I had asked people what they were really super proud of for the end of or what their favorite make was from 2021. And I put a link in the show notes with the thread on Ravelry of sort of where people were sharing stuff. And so I took from there all of not all of them, but some of the things that people were really, really proud of. And then people who aren't on Ravelry also shared on the Slack channel. So that was wonderful. And so let's share this one. This is from Priscilla. My favorite make of this year was my hand spun and hand knit Queenie shawl by Truly Myrtle. It was a first for me spinning to or for a specific pattern, and it was an excellent year for growing my spinning and knitting abilities. Isn't that beautiful? That turned out really beautifully, Priscilla. Thank you for sharing. And then this is from Laura. We've shared this on the podcast before, but I had to throw it in because it's just so shockingly gorgeous, and I love her outfit. My favorite make of last year is definitely the Shifty cardigan. It was my first intentional spinning project, and I learned a lot about dyeing fiber and spinning fiber. I've already worn it a lot, and it's probably going to be one of my favorites for a long time. Beautiful. So asking everybody what their favorite makes were for the year was really fun because it kind of highlighted all of the things that you guys have been working on and some of the stuff that you maybe haven't shared or forgot to share or got overlooked. This is from Megan. My favorite make was my spot sweater. I love the patterning on this. The diamonds are just perfect. I knit this only. It's not hand spun as I'm just new to spinning and haven't made anything from my hand spun yet. That's okay, Megan. Share all the things. But that will be hopefully changing soon. Absolutely. And it was a pleasure to meet. There are quite a few new people in the community over the last couple of months, and they've been coming to the Maker Mornings, which is wonderful. So if you are kind of wondering about the Maker Mornings and you're not sure if you should come or not, if you're a patron, please just join in. It's a really welcoming and friendly group. My favorite make of 2021 are these socks. This is from Hanta. My first ones in using hand spun, and they are so comfortable. They look amazing, Hanta. I'm wearing hand spun socks today actually too. I'm wearing my Sweet Georgia Yarns, I think it was called Fall Bouquet. They're a 4-ply. This is from Maria. We've shared this on the podcast as well. Her favorite make of 2021 is a sweater modified from a hat pattern and made in hand spun yarns. This was originally a Kate Davies pattern, if you're wondering about finding it, and she modified it into the sweater. And we talked about it on the podcast before. It's just amazing. This is from Charlotte. I love this grid. I thought this was fantastic. And I want everybody to just take a moment and look at those overshot samples, second over. They're just absolutely beautiful. And then also at the sweater on the bottom right-hand corner, because she had just finished it. And it's called It Takes a Guild Cardigan, would be my favorite from yesterday's post. She put it up in the general channel on Slack. She had quite a few photos there. So if you're wondering about that cardigan, go back in the Slack channel. It's under #general and it's right there. You'll see it immediately because those cables are just beautiful. I didn't have a make 9, but apparently I made 9+ things. Beautiful. And she did a lot of weaving, which is fantastic. Well done, Charlotte. This is from Kelly. She shared this on the Slack channel. Boy, this is it is tough to pick just one. I would have to say my absolute favorite project this year was my bear claw quilt, which I know isn't knitting or spinning, but was quite an achievement. I naturally dyed all the fabric, machine pieced, hand quilted, and hand bound it. It's roughly queen size, a little bit smaller. In terms of knitting and spinning, I'd have to say my favorite knit was the Oa by Kate Davies, the sweater. The yarn I had spun for me at a local mill after I'd gotten it from a local North Country Cheviot producer. I'm starting to get tongue-tied, guys. It's almost time to say goodbye. I dyed it with indigo and madder and kutch, which is the reddish orange, the trim. And my favorite spin was my BFL Kid Bow Hair Sock spin in Crafty Jack's Pasuta. I really, really love this yarn, and the resulting socks are absolutely heavenly. Beautiful. That quilt is beautiful. Everyone's projects are so beautiful. I totally agree, Sarah. This is from Eveline. It's an incredibly hard question. The favorite thing to knit was the Dunedin shawl by Lucy I think it's Haig, in a commercial stock yarn. The cables were nicely challenging. I think I will make it again in hand spun. And her favorite thing to spin was looking at this bobbin of White-Faced Woodland. It's the Lovebirds colorway by Cat and Sparrow. Cat and Sparrow, they're a UK-based dyer and fiber producer, fiber supplier. I love their stuff. I've got a couple of things in my stash from them, and the couple of things that I have spun by them is just awesome. So if you guys are based in Europe or the UK, definitely check them out. And I had to show you guys mine. This is mine, all of my stuff from this year. So these are all of my favorite makes from this year. So our breeding color study on Shetland in the bottom left-hand corner, my hive mind mitts, my Beaumont and alpaca spin, that's the bottom row. And then the middle row is my rainbow gamp. It was plain weave, 682 cotton. It was so much fun to make. And I ended up with some really lovely Christmas gifts out of it. My Itsy Bitsy Yarn Shop, which was my baby fine ultra alpaca. And that was really meaningful for me because of course I bought that fiber in Whitehorse when my dad was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And then my Hello yarn in organic Pullworth, which of course is just my favorite colors. And then the top row was my Magnolia pullover, my Spark cardigan, and then the one that's closest to me here is my reclaimed yarn for my Marmore. And I've linked all of my stuff in my projects page on Ravelry. So if you guys are curious about my Make 9, I haven't actually, I haven't updated it. So I will do that later and I will share that with you guys. So those are my top makes of the year. So thank you for letting me share. I wanted to share with you, and then the last thing I wanted to share with you was a joke that was actually posted on the Claudia's stuff I saved for next week. So Claudia, I'm going to put your name up again next week because I'm sharing your stuff next week. It's your breed and color study stuff that I wanted to, I was generating stuff. I don't want to lose stuff. Like stuff gets posted. There's so much stuff. And then I'll lose it if I don't save it right away. So Claudia, your name will come up next week. But finally, I wanted to share this joke that was posted by Julie on the Slack channel. It was just too perfect not to share. So I'll just let you guys read. For those who can't read the writing, it says lay flat to dry. And it's a bunch of sheep lying down in the sun. I just love that so much. So that is the end of a very long show. Lots and lots of catching up to do. Lots of spinning, knitting, and weaving was done. I didn't really talk about the weaving at all, but as you can see in the background here, I've been working on my cat bells. It's for my mom. I gave it to her for Christmas. I gave it to her in its mostly knit state, and I told her that I would finish it and work on it. One of the sleeves is actually completely done. This one here is completely done. It's nice because the sleeves, because it's a drop shoulder, because of the construction, the sleeves aren't super, super, super long to knit. They actually knit up really quickly. So I'm working on the other one now, and then I just have to seam up the pockets. So the pockets are on. They just have to have their little side seams put on. And then it'll be done. To be honest with you, I've said this before, and I know you guys really appreciate it. When we're home, I don't have a lot of time to knit. I really take the time when I'm home to work on stuff that I can't take with me. So like my Saxony is my road trip, my tofino road trip colorway. I'm spinning it on the Saxony. So I've been working on that and working on the merino flax silk singles. I've been spinning those, working on the looms. I don't really have a lot of time to knit when I'm home. And soccer's been canceled because of all the snow. And so I haven't been sitting in the car waiting for the kids. So it means very little knitting time. But I know you guys understand. So until next time, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy weaving, happy all the things. I wanted to mention this because it is coming, but it's not coming for 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Starting in February, the show is going to shift off of Saturday mornings. So the reason that I had put the show on Saturday mornings was because we were all at home and Mike was working from home, and we were right in the crux and in the middle of the pandemic. We were sort of deep in with the pandemic. We were all at home. Mike was working from home 8-hour days. And I couldn't podcast during the day, during the week, because you'll remember that the show used to be at noon on Wednesdays, and it was always at noon on Wednesdays. And when we went to the live stream schedule. And so when he was working from home, we couldn't do that. And we tried it at first because over his lunch break, I would do the live stream, but it was too stressful and it was just too much. And now that things are sort of moving toward a new normal and moving towards sort of a post-pandemic world, or sort of a learning to live with it pandemic world, we really need our weekends back. And because I work every Sunday, having Saturdays and Sundays, it's just too much, to be totally honest. So the show, as of February, will shift back to a weekday. And I know that it's not ideal for everybody, but we have to sort of reclaim our family time. So starting on the first Tuesday of February, the show, sorry, not the first Tuesday, starting the first Saturday in February, the show will shift forward a couple of days to the Tuesday at noon, and it will be Tuesdays at noon going forward. It just, like I said, we need family time, and we need to reclaim this time because Mike is no longer working at home. So, and he won't be. He'll be going into the office sort of permanently. So as of February 5th, the show will move to Tuesdays. So thank you for understanding, and thank you for being supportive and for appreciating that that is really important to us. And I will see you guys next week, same time, same place on Saturday morning. And until then, happy weaving, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy all the things. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.